Yep, that's working. Okay, so welcome to Painting a Dorset Landscape 3. So this is our third week, which I think we've progressed quite well, given that we've only had, is that right, 2 or 3 classes on this? I think this is the third one. Yeah. That's pretty good, I think, for a couple of hours lessons. Anyway, get on with it, Ash. So this is a bit warm, so you want to go back and get some coolness in here. Okay, so Bridget, you asked me which bit we're going to work on, and I'm like, you know, we want to work on the whole painting. I think we should go upside down now. And I'm just looking at my picture. Has everybody got their reference pictures? I'm going to go upside down because I don't really want to think about this as sort of as sky, sea, and tree as separate things. I want to see that as a whole thing. So I've said that enough times, I think, now. So I'm looking at this. I realise my picture has a bit of paint on it, so there's a big blue spot here, but anyway, I'll ignore that. And I feel like just looking at these two, comparing this with my photo, I might just clip that there for now. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I feel like there's some really good yellow bits here on the hill. But then it goes yellow all the way across. So I probably want to put a bit of blue there. When I say blue, I mean cool. So I might mix up a purple, actually. I might mix up a bit of red. I put a bit of red into some cobalt blue. And then make a kind of soft purple. Okay, so we'll mix that up together now. And then I'm going to put that... I mean, this is these colours here in the the background are very subtle. And I also feel like the purple is going to help us not only to knock back the sea and the hills into the background, but also to put some more shading in the trees. Because I feel like my trees are quite warm and I need to put in some shade in them. And then the purple is the best colour to put some shade into those areas. And just cool it down a bit as well. To try and get that balance. So I'm going to put some shade here. And a lot of also this is yellow. And that probably needs to be greened up a bit. So I'll put some blue, or I could even mix a little bit of green in there. But mix some yellow ochre and some blue and put some sort of greeny foliage there in the trees. But first we'll go dark and then we'll lighten it up a bit with some green, so some yellow and blue mixed together. Okay, so I'm just working out in my head as we're talking. But I think let's go for the purple, and then we'll put some green, and then we'll get some green. Okay, now this makes sense for me of where I am with this, so I don't know where other people are with theirs. I mean, are people, if they look at their painting, do they feel like it's too dark or too light, or is it mostly warm or mostly cool? What would people say?
Mostly cool.
Mostly cool.
I thought that at the end of last week, I thought mine was too yellow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too ochre yellow. So I'm using more green, and I'm interested in where.
Okay.
I've made it purple, and I'm interested in where to put that. And
Yeah. So can you wait? Oh my God! My tripod's tipping over. Oh dear. Maybe I could get some funding for a tripod. That would be good. So there we go. It's just stuck on like that. I just don't want it to tip over. Okay, so I'm going to mix up those colours now. First of all, we'll just do one at a time. We'll just do the purple. So we're just doing the purple. So I'm just getting some blue and some red onto this old plate, which I use as a palette sometimes. So I'm just doing 50-50 at the moment. It's hard to see that on that myriad of colours. One day I'll clean that. That'll be a good thing. So what size brush? I think I'm just going to use a fairly thick brush. So this is between 1 centimetre and 1 inch really. So quite a thick brush because I don't want to go in with anything too severe, especially because I'm going to start, yeah, I want it to be quite subtle. So I've mixed that 50-50 blue and red, and I've decided it's a bit red. So I want a bit more blue there because we're trying to cool it down. So a bit more blue. Here we are. So, okay, maybe even a bit more blue. So actually that's quite a nice purple. Maybe I put too much. No, that's good. So that's a real purple now. There we go. I don't know. I mean, that's going to register differently on everyone's computer depending on what colour settings are. But so I've got a purple here. So I think where I'm going to do the put some here to knock this back a little bit. It's going to be very, very subtle. So I can either use a dry brush, but I think I'm going to get some water on there and dilute it a bit. So my brush is really, it's just got a dilution of purple on it. Okay. I don't want to put a really wet brush on there. So I've put a diluted paint on there, and then I've kind of wiped it off with my rag. I say my rag, but actually I was using my smock. And then I'm just going to knock that back a bit. But actually, as I'm doing it, because I see there's a hill in the foreground which is a bit warmer, so I'm going to sort of put it behind that hill here. Really subtle bit of purple. And then I don't know if people can you see Lime Regis in your pictures? Because that will be depending on, you know, your printout, whether you had a good printout or not really. But in the background there's Lime Regis, and you can see there's some sort of grey houses, some grey boxes of all the buildings a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. I mean, to be honest, that detail's not very helpful. I think you just want to, you could maybe leave what am I trying to say? You could maybe paint something in later at the end. Yes. So I'm knocking back this hill, but I'm also going to put some over the sea, but only a little bit. And I'm diluting it there with some mouth material, which is a bit cheeky, but that's years of habit. And that's quite purpley, but that should knock it back a bit. And maybe I'm thinking the hill's probably a bit dark. So I'm just trying to do I notice it's a bit darker, and then there's like water foam or something there, or white. It's a bit lighter, so I've left that to be a bit lighter. And then I'm going to go in and just put the shading here in the trees. So to just get that line back in there of the tree line, which I kind of lost a little bit. So I'm just being really quite free with it. Oh, I've got to take that out because that was where it was shining through. But I'm just trying to get those shadows that were underneath the highlights of the tree. So here. And in here it was quite dark, but it's looking kind of warm and yellowy, and it needs to be purple. It needs to be cool. A cool purpley. And I noticed here there's some trees in the background, and you can sort of maybe draw those in with your dark purple a little bit as well. Now, so does that make sense? Can you see that okay? Is it making sense for you and your pictures? Or have people got any questions? If they want to show me what they're up to, and then I can, you know, maybe you need to jump forward a step or something.
I'm not sure about the purple trees with watercolour, but...
Yes, so with the watercolour, you want to have it really, really diluted, I think, Bridget.
Yeah.
So, have you got some shadows in there? Like some dark...
I've half done that tree. Hang on. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's looking lovely. So you've gone in with the green already?
Yeah,
is
just
that...
halfway down.
Yes. So you've kind of jumped to the next step, and now you need to get some shadows in there. So just, I think you need to get a little bit of purple in there as well as the green. Just the tiniest bit, if you can, to get a bit of shadow. Even if it's just sort of down the bottom here.
Right.
Because otherwise it's too literal. It's too like green. And actually, you just need a bit more variation on those.
My purple is much paler than your purple.
Has it got white in it? Because you might need to darken it with black then. I think, Bridget, you need to have a dark purple.
Okay.
I mean, having said that, I'm thinking mine's probably a bit bright as well. Okay, guys. I think I'm going to put some black in my purple. See how that's popping out like that? It shouldn't really be doing that. It should be going back. So I'm going to put a bit of...
The trouble is that we don't see your colours. I don't. Does everybody else see the colours or not?
Not all of them.
Not well enough, no.
Oh, that's the trouble.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that better if I move that closer like that?
I can see where you're going.
I think the video will show the colours a bit better.
Yeah.
If my tripod doesn't fall over and tip on me, which it looks like it's about to do. Okay, so I think we should put a tiny bit of black in that purple, just to darken it a bit, because it's popping a bit on my painting. It's popping out a bit. You don't want it to pop out as purple. You want it to. So I'll put some black in, and now it's looking a bit muddy. I'm going to put a bit more blue in. So, I mean, yeah, this is when working online becomes a little bit tricky, and it'd be really nice if, you know, we could all mix colours together and then, you know, you could show me what we've got and we could all be working from the same colour palette. See, I've mixed some black in there, and that's going to be better. That's going to come in here better with the shadows, I think. It could even be a bit darker. Yeah, so I think I think as the painting progresses and we get into a bit more subtle changes, maybe it'll be a bit more difficult. I don't know. But I think if people have questions about their particular painting, and then if they want to hold them up, and then I can make suggestions, or how's that? But I mean, I think everybody's going really well, and probably there might be a danger of overpainting, which you probably don't want to go into. I'm just going over my branches as well.
See, Jane's tried several times to join, but the internet's really bad for her today, so she's
okay.
going to watch the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going in underneath here with the shadows. So can I just say, I've put a bit of black in there, and I'm infinitely happier about that. But there are sort of some trees in the background, so it's kind of nice. I've got that variation of shadow. So once again, made a mistake of putting a too bright purple on my painting, but turning it into an opportunity to get more variation into my painting. So that's the way we need to work. I'm going to also practice what I preach and look at the painting as a whole, and put that up there so I can see the whole painting, because I got stuck over here, and then I need to come over here as well and put the shading in here. So I'm not going over the branches that we put in the highlights. Although if I thought there was too much yellow branches going on, I could knock a few back with my shadow. But basically I feel like at the end of my brushes there's a magic shadow. So I can put in these darker shades. And the other thing is that there's a bit of blue in that shadow. It's a cool shadow, so it should counteract the yellow a little bit, so my painting isn't looking so yellow. See, I'm putting a little bit over this grass here to knock back the yellow. Okay, so it's tricky. I mean, it's tricky when not to kind of go off ahead and look at your painting, which is fine. But I think after looking at everybody's paintings last week, I feel like you're well placed to go ahead a little bit. But you can see how putting these shadows underneath, I'm going to end up with some quite realistic trees when I come in to put those green highlights at the top. So I'm just putting, I'm always referring to my picture. I said that, but because I did actually forget to refer to it for a little bit. Always want to refer to your picture, and then I'm just putting in some of these darker shades also to just balance the picture a bit better. So already I'm feeling a bit happier with this as a whole scene. So I'm going to put some purple in the hills, some of this deep purple which I've mixed with black just where the foliage is, and I'm just dabbing it, so I'm not doing like one definite line for these hills in the background. I'm just being a little bit soft with it, so it will look like a more realistic kind of field, because I'm putting some shadow in there. And the shadow could be like the trees in the distance. When I say shadow, doesn't necessarily mean it's actual shadow. I'm more meaning like some darker bits. Some darker bits, really. And where I think, oh, it's gone a bit yellow, so here, I can see there's yellow on the tops. So I want to keep it cool, hot on the, keep those yellow highlights, and then put this shading underneath. So if I did that, then I'd put the shading underneath. So also this here, there's some foliage which is quite dark, which I'm going to put in here. Can people sort of follow a bit what I'm doing, or are people just in their own painting? Is that, which is good? Are you happy with how it's going?
Both trying to follow you.
Yeah.
Andy and,
Okay, I'm trying not to be too abstract, but I mean,
Will we put some green in the fields?
pardon?
Will we put some green in the fields eventually?
Yeah, that's the next step. Green in the field's the next step. Was that Dot? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just knocking back some of this yellow into shade. And also my trees had too much yellow, and I need to put in some shade all around here. See, this is quite dark, and I've got a bit too much yellow there, see? So I'm just knocking that back a bit. Trying to look at my photo at the same time. So trying to follow what's going on here a little bit. Do. Okay. And I'm using quite a dry brush because I don't want to put too much on. And I'm just looking at the bits that I've missed out. I was using a dry brush when the foliage was, but now I've put some water on it and realising actually I need to paint out these bits that I've left just to bring it all together a bit. So, how are we going, Ange? There's some details in here that I've left out, which I might just start to put in a bit. Sort of hills. Okay. Now, this is where I need to just not do too much. And here I need to put that shadows underneath of the trees, because this is really important when the next step, when I go to put my greens. I just don't want to have big clumps of green here. It's got to be just green on the highlights, as the photo has shows. And I'm kind of slightly using gestures which somehow mirror that a little bit. I don't know. So I'm just trying to keep the sense of foliage in here. And then I can see that there's a few black lines that I just want to soften up a bit. Okay. So I think I'm just trying to keep the... So now I'm using... I'm just trying to get in this... The tops of the trees. Try and keep this sort of sense of foliage. So I'm just kind of dabbing bits of shadow at the tops there that I can then overpaint the green in. Yeah. And maybe put some shadow in there. So here. And then there's a bit of stuff, foliage coming in there. So I think my tree's nearly ready for some green. Now I feel like that's got... I feel like it's too hot. It needs a bit more blue. But we'll use that. The green will cool it down, so we're good. We're good that all looks a bit hot. I don't know if that registers as hot. It does on this video, but I don't know. I think this zoom is quite. It shows more cool colours, but actually, my painting's looking a little bit purpley now. So I don't know if people can see that in theirs as well. But
Yes.
I mean, the thing is at the moment now is we need to, as the painting progresses, we need to practice a bit more restraint. So go slow and try not to go into overpainting territory. And I think I know when I'm in overpainting territory, when I think... when I keep going when I feel like that isn't working. So with painting, instead of like I have done that whole turn it into something good. So I feel like that's okay. But if something's not working, just to keep going and ignore it and not this is such a great metaphor for life, really, isn't it? Yeah? So if something's not working and you just go, oh, that's not working. I know that tree looks wrong, but I don't care. I'm going to ignore it. It will come back to haunt you. It won't fix itself. You need to go, oh, it looks wrong because it's too whatever. It's too dark or it's too light or it's too warm or cool or whatever it is. You need to, by looking at it and referencing your photo, work out what isn't working about it, and then try a solution, and try and fix it, or turn it, paint it out. But the thing is, you need to do something about it. If you ignore it and just keep painting, you'll go into overpainting your painting, and it'll just be something that you're not happy with. So if you're not happy with an area of your painting, because this is a really personal thing, yeah. So for instance, I'm not happy with this. It just looks like a real mess of purple, but I'm okay because I've got a solution that I'm going to try now to cool it down, to get rid of the purple. Because at the moment there's just a lot of shade. It's too much shade, and there's not enough highlights, which are these nice green bits at the top of the trees. Now, I think, and also in the hills here. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to put some green in. But a word of caution, you want to keep the shadows that that at the moment I'm hating because there's too many. But I also want to keep them because I need to keep that variation. And that's what I mean about kind of like incorporating your mistakes. And this is a beautiful life metaphor as well. So you want to have like a rich tapestry of colours and marks, different marks, and in a painting to make it interesting. Like having, you know, your scars in your life and stuff. You've got to learn to love all that stuff, because it makes for a much more interesting and engaging painting. Otherwise, if it's all perfect and, you know, photoshopped and spray airbrushed, it's just really boring. So keep all your mistakes in, but just keep going with them and try and turn them into, try and find a solution so that they become sort of happy accidents instead of things that you don't know what to do about them. So I'm really happy to like answer your questions. If there's something about your painting and you're not sure how to fix it, that's what I'm here for, I guess. Oh my God, I do a lot of talking, don't I? Okay, so now we're going to mix the green. I'm just going to wash my brush off a bit because I'm happy using this brush. And I haven't looked at the time, but we're okay. We're okay because we don't want to spend much time on green. There's not a lot of green. It's really hard not to kind of put too much green in, because when you look at the paint, the picture as a whole, really, the green is only like, you know, even though you think, oh, it's just a picture of green fields. It's not a picture of green fields. The green would be like, you know, 15% max of the whole painting. So we're only doing, and they're just little highlights. It's not even 15%, is it? It's just that bit there and a bit of green highlights on the trees. So I think that would be a lot less. But so I'm just saying that so that you know, don't put too much green in there. But there are some nice green highlights between these branches here at the bottom or the top, because we're working upside down. I don't know if people are still working upside down, but it's going to help me. Yeah, okay. So it's up to you. That's fine. I feel...
How are you? I'm so sorry.
It's right.
I have a different colour blue to you. I've got an ultramarine.
Yeah.
But how are you mixing your green?
Yeah, so ultramarine and yellow ochre to make a green, okay? So don't worry, like, if you're looking at your photo and you're thinking it's not this really bright green, which actually is more my printer than anything else. And we could spend like hours just talking about colour theory and how that's all relative as well. But for this exercise, we just want to get an indication of green, which is relative to all the other colours that we're working with. And if we're mixing the blue and the yellow ochre that we've used in the sky and the leaves and everything, then the painting is going to work together as a whole. It's going to be a lot more cohesive. It's going to have the same colour values or light values. Rather than, I mean, I could go and pick a sap green or a hooker's green, but it would just look ridiculous, like I've just stuck it on. And the reason why I'm working upside down too is because I know actually there's not much green that I need to put in now, and you know, it feels like I'm dragging my feet, but I know I don't want to spend a lot of time putting in the green, because what could easily happen is I put too much on and then it just it's kind of ruined the painting as a whole. The sky is then looking it just looks like there's green and then there's sky, and it's looking a bit picture book. And I feel like last week everybody showed me their paintings and all of you had a really cohesive whole painting. And this is when we're in stuff up territory by thinking, oh, it's lots of green fields and I'm going to paint my trees all green. Really, just the tops of these trees are green. Yeah. So if we want to keep that sense of realism, you know, there's really just a bit of green here. I can't see any green here, except maybe a really dark green. So we could go in at the end with some really dark green if you want. But for the green we're going to mix now, which is like a lighter green, we're just going to put that in the hills and then just the highlights of the trees. So yes, being very restrained and Yeah, because we still want to keep some of the yellow ochre on those hills. That really helps. Okay, so I must say I really understand that. I was really tempted just to reach for some sap green then, but I know this is going to work better as a painting. And the other thing you can always do is if you think, oh, there's not enough true green, I mean, you can go in and just put a sneaky tiny bit in. But if you put more than the smallest amount, you'll ruin the cohesiveness of your painting. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm mixing blue and yellow. That makes green. I was just thinking about this book that I had as a kid. I don't know if anybody else had it. It was about a blue dot meeting a yellow dot, and then they made a green dot. Anyway, I always remember that. That really has helped me. It's sort of burned in my brain how to make green, really, from having that book as a kid, I reckon. Anyway, I might do some research this afternoon and see if I can find that book. I would love to have that book. Anyway, so I've mixed the blue and the yellow, and it's made this kind of muddy green. And you might think, oh, that's really muddy and horrible, but it's really enough, especially when you've got some yellow ochre next to it. So you don't want to get rid of the yellow ochre that's in the tops of those trees. You really want to keep that. That's your little bits of gold which is sort of the sun, the highlights of the sun on the leaves. And if you just go in with just green and don't keep that shade of a bit of purple shadow and a bit of yellow sunlight, it'll just become flat. Okay. So yeah, so I'm just going to, now I've loaded up my brush with green, I'm just going to, and I think maybe it could be a bit lighter. I could put a bit more yellow in there, but we'll see. I'll see how it looks if I just go in here with a bit of green. So yeah, it's quite dark, but what it's going to do, so say I'm going, oh, it's too dark, this green, but it's going to really help me get those bits of detail in there. So I'm going to use that to get that sort of sense of clumping leaves that we're getting in both of these trees. I don't know if anyone knows about trees and what sort of trees these are, because I feel like they're kind of definite kind of trees, aren't they? If that makes any sense.
The left-hand one's a conifer of some sort.
Thanks very much. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sort of like, is that like a pine tree or something,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
So,
I would think so.
So I keep changing my mind on whether this is too dark or too light, actually, because I just really aware I don't want to get rid of my shadows. But I'm just sort of dabbing it. So I'm dabbing it because I'm trying to keep this effect of the conifer, which is kind of slightly spiky and clumpy, for want of